Hello, welcome back to Jimmy Talks. We're going to talk about why so many entry level jobs require years of experience. If you're a young adult, perhaps just out of high school or college, you've likely noticed something frustrating. Many jobs labeled as entry level demand years of experience, sometimes 3, 4, or even 5 years. According to LinkedIn, 38% of entry level job postings require between 3 and 5 years of experience. This statistic might leave you wondering, how can a job be entry level if it expects you to already have a significant work history? Let's break down why this happened, how workplace trends have shifted across generations up until 2025, and what employers today really mean when they advertise these roles. Let's dive into the history, the economic changes, and the modern hiring landscape to understand this paradox. To understand why entry level jobs now require experience, we need to look back at how work has changed over time, starting with the silent generation, those born between 1928 and 1945. During their era, particularly after World War II, companies valued loyalty above all else. They hired people into low level positions, often straight out of school, with little to no experience. The expectation was that employers and employees would stay together, the employees would be at the same company for decades. In return, businesses offered internal training, steady promotions, and pensions, retirement plans that guaranteed income after years of service. This built a sense of mutual commitment. Employees gave their time and effort, and companies invested in their growth. Next came the baby boomers, born between 1946 and 1964. This generation continued the tradition of company loyalty, though the economy began to shift. As industries grew, corporations still hired from within, training workers for higher roles. However, the rise of college education meant more people entered the workforce with degrees, raising expectations slightly. Still, entry-level jobs remained true starting points, and promotions were a common reward for dedications. This shift became more noticeable with Generation X, born between 1965 and 1980. By the time they entered the workforce, economic pressures were changing how companies operated. Around the 80s, a pivotal transformation began, which we'll explore in detail shortly. Gen Xers still saw some internal growth opportunities, but they also faced a growing emphasis on flexibility and adaptability as businesses prioritized profit over long-term employee welfare. Then came millennials, born between 1981 and 1996. This generation encountered a workplace heavily influenced by the changes that started in the 80s. Automation, globalization, and outsourcing reduced the numbers of traditional entry-level roles, while companies began to expect more from new hires. Loyalty started to erode on both sides. Employees switched jobs more often, and employers offered fewer guarantees like pensions. By 2025, as Gen Z, born between 1997 and 2012, fully enters the workforce, the idea of staying with one company for life feels outdated. You, as Gen Z, value flexibility, purpose, and immediate opportunities. But they're met with job postings that seem to demand years of experience you haven't even had the chance to gain. So, what happened in the 80s that changed everything? Around this time, a major ideological shift took hold in the corporate world. Businesses began prioritizing profits for shareholders, people who own stock in the company, over the quality of life for employees. Before the 80s, many companies saw their workers as long-term investments. They believed that training and retaining staff would lead to stability and success. But in the 80s, influenced by economic theories and a focus on short-term gains, as well as massive deregulation under the Reagan administration, executives started cutting costs to boost stock prices and dividends. This shift had profound effects. First, automation replaced many manual jobs. Machines could do repetitive tasks faster and cheaper than humans, so companies invested in technology rather than people. Second, globalization opened up international markets. Businesses realized they could manufacture goods or provide services in countries with lower labor costs, reducing the need for local entry-level workers. Third, outsourcing became common. Companies hired external firms, often overseas, to handle tasks like customer service or data entry, further shrinking domestic job opportunities. These changes meant fewer traditional entry-level positions where young people could start with no experience. Instead of hiring and training from within, companies sought workers who could contribute immediately, aligning with the new focus on efficiency and profit. Pensions largely disappeared, replaced by less secure retirement options like 401k plans, and promotions became less automatic. The message was clear. Employees were now responsible for their own career development. Historically, companies trained employees internally because it made sense. They could mold workers to fit their specific needs. But by 2025, this practice has largely faded, and several factors explain why. First, the cost of training is high. Teaching someone with no experience takes time, resources, and skilled staff, and there's no guarantee the employee will stay long enough for the company to see a return on that investment. With Gen Z's tendency to job hop, often seeking better pay or purpose, which actually started as a trend with millennials, businesses hesitate to commit. Second, the pace of technology has accelerated. Skills that took years to master in the past can become obsolete rather quickly, so companies prefer hiring people who already know the latest tools or systems, such as software from Amazon Web Services or other platforms. Third, the rise of competitive job market means employers can be picky. With more graduates and career switchers applying, they opt for candidates with proven skills over those needing development. Statistics reflect this trend. A 2022 study by TalentWorks found that 61% of full-time entry-level jobs required at least 3 years of experience. Companies now prioritize hiring for skills rather than potential. They want you to hit the ground running, minimizing the time and money spent on onboarding. This shift leaves many Gen Z job seekers in a catch-22. You need experience to get a job, but you need a job to gain experience. Another layer of frustration is the role of education. Many entry-level jobs today require a college degree, even for roles that didn't demand one just a few decades ago. You might spend 4 years and thousands of dollars earning a bachelor's degree, only to find that employers still won't hire you without additional experience. Why does this happen? First, the saturation of degree holders means competition is fierce. With more people graduating college, employers raise the bar, using experience as a filter to narrow the applicant pool. Second, some companies inflate job requirements unrealistically. They might list 3 to 5 years of experience as a nice to have rather than a strict need, but this discourages those without it from applying. Third, hiring processes are often flawed. Many recruiters, sometimes outsourced or based overseas, lack insight into the roles they're filling. They rely on automated systems like AI filters powered by AWS software to screen resumes. These systems reject candidates who don't match exact keywords, even if they're qualified and capable. Recruiters also act unprofessionally. They can. Not all of them, of course. Ghosting applicants and setting vague expectations. The result? Even with a degree, you might not get past the first hurdle. Employers often assume a degree proves basic competence, but they still want evidence you can apply that knowledge in a real-world setting, something a classroom can't fully provide. So, what do employers actually mean by entry level in 2025? To them, it's not always about zero experience. Many see entry level as the first step in a specific field or company, but they expect you to bring some skills. Perhaps from internships, freelance work, or personal projects. They're not looking for a blank slate. They want someone who can adapt quickly and contribute without extensive training. Employers also use experience requirements to reduce risk. Hiring someone untested feels uncertain in a profit-driven world, so they lean towards candidates with a track record. For some, entry level is misnomer, a holdover from older job posting templates that no longer reflects reality. In their mind, these roles are for people early in their careers, not necessarily new to work entirely. The disconnect leaves Gen Z in a rough and tough spot, though. You're expected to arrive with skills, but opportunities to gain them, like internships, are limited, especially since many companies cut these programs to save costs. The result is a system that feels stacked against them. In summary, the requirement of years of experience for entry-level jobs stems from decades of change. From the silent generation's era of loyalty and internal growth, we've moved to a 2025 reality where shareholder profit, automation, globalization, and outsourcing dominate. Companies no longer train from within due to cost, technological speed, and a competitive market, leaving you to bridge the gap. Degrees help, but they're not enough when flawed hiring processes and unrealistic expectations block your path. What can you do? Seek out skills through side projects, online courses, or networking. Apply even if you don't meet every requirement. Some employers are flexible. The system isn't perfect, but understanding it gives you a starting point. Thank you for watching, and good luck navigating this challenging job market. Jimmy Talks out.